Hey, time to shine today, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson here, and I am super stoked to bring you this interview that I did with T. Shane Johnson. He is a Marine veteran, or a veteran of the United States Marines. He has been seen on Forbes Business, Fox Business, USA Today. A fantastic story about a true go-giver that's always getting after it. He's a motivational speaker, does keynotes across the United States. He's actually covered over 6,000 miles raising money for veteran suicide awareness. So you're going to pick up some solid knowledge nuggets in this interview. So sit back, relax, get out your notepad, because here comes T. Shane Johnson. Let's level up. Hey, time to shine, Varsity Squad. I am super stoked. I get my guy T. Shane Johnson that's coming on today. Wait till you hear the story. It's amazing, but I'm going to run in a little bit about what T. Shane is all about. T. Shane's a motivational speaker, corporate sales coach, and Marine Corps veteran, Semper Fi. As a motivational speaker, T. Shane is a road warrior running from coast to coast to inspire the homeless veterans community and raises awareness about veteran suicide. Covering 6,000 miles, 9 states, speaking in 30 plus cities, helping over 10,000 homeless veterans while raising hundreds of thousands of dollars in nonprofit funds. He does all of this while successfully operating 3 businesses, and get this, squad, a 3-time author and a 2-time Amazon bestseller. He's crushing it. His tactics offer a fresh, inspiring message focusing on proven tactics that launch individuals and organizations beyond current expectations. And boy, T. Shane has a story to tell you on how all this came inspired. So welcome to the show, Leatherneck. Could you quickly share with the Varsity Squad your favorite color and why?
Blue. Blue's my favorite because it's my little girl's favorite. She loves blue. I love blue. Whatever she loves, I'm down for it. So blue it is.
It's funny is a lot of the veterans that I'll interview, they'll say red because it's a go, go, go. I think deep down inside you might be a little bit of red too.
Yeah.
Girl brings you down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, man, when you become a father of a little girl, it's like you become a killer in a whole different way, right? You focus on everything around her. So she'll break you down in 5 seconds, but anybody mess with her and the Marine comes out real
It's
fast.
done. It's over. It's over. So, man, I'm going to just kind of shut up because you told me a little bit about your story before, and I've read about you. You've been on Forbes. You've been in the top publications. So, why don't you tell me a story of how this all got started?
Well, wow, that's actually a long story. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest. So the gist of it is, I think I did pretty much the basic platform of any potential, military person. I grew up in a small town. My dad was a single dad. I had a younger brother that was blind and mentally handicapped. I had a younger sister. So my dad used to work. He was a prison guard for almost 40 years. And, we lived probably 12, 13 miles away from town out in the middle of nowhere in Arcadia, Florida. And, so I became the responsible one to take care of my siblings. Started as an entrepreneur at almost 12, 13 years old. I was selling, now I can say this, but when I was 12 or 13 years old, I was selling little half bottles of Michelob Lights to canoers that would come down the river. I'd run up to the house and sell them for like $35 and just made a killing off of it. It was a really cool story. And so then, I had the opportunity to join the Marine Corps. I wanted to, be the best. So I joined the Marines, left the small town, had the opportunity from the Marine Corps to earn the title of being a Marine. I was very fortunate. I graduated honor grad. I was, number one in my class, meritoriously promoted 3 times before I even I was Lance Corporal by the time I got to the fleet. And I joined 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines in infantry, ground pounder, and spent about a year and a half with them. And then I went to Battalion Recon in Camp Pendleton, Margarita during 98 to 02. During that time, I was going through Recon Indoctrination Platoon, and we were pretty underfunded. So I was part of a OJT program. I didn't go to actual ARS or BRC. They kept us in-house because there was just a handful of us. And
This is post 9/11, right?
Actually, it's prior to 9/11.
Prior, no, that's right. You said 98.
Yep,
I'm sorry.
yep,
Go ahead.
Yep. So we were going through all of that training. The operators were prepping for combat dive. We were just basically getting hazed, having a good time in pre-scuba, just so the best shape of our lives. We had a 72, for those of you who aren't in the military, kind of a free weekend to get away and not be hazed. So
Liberty.
I took it. And yeah, exactly. And I dipped out. And was riding a motorcycle, came off the back of the base. There was some gang members that were targeting military. They hit me with a car. I caught the corner of a brick house at 45 miles an hour. Broke my entire chest plate, collarbone, right hand, shoulder blade. Every single rib was broken and shattered, not cracked, literally broken and shattered. Cut all my major organs, kidney, spleen, liver. Put 3 50-cent size hole pieces into my lungs. And my left bicep was lacerated and I was bleeding out. I think your body holds about 6 pints. I lost 4 pints of blood. When I hit the ground, I was very fortunate. It didn't knock me out. I hit the ground and they kicked me and robbed me, kind of left me for dead. And because of the neighborhood and the gang, no one would really help me. So I walked 2 blocks to a fire station, taking 1 full breath every minute with my right hand over my left bicep, kind of keeping the blood from pouring out all over, even though it was all over the ground. Got there, helicopter came in, got a bay flight, took me in. I flatlined out the first time on the helicopter, flatlined out the second time as soon as we land, and flatlined out the third time a little bit as we got in. And once that all happened, I lost 54 pounds in 2 weeks, had to learn how to walk, talk, breathe again. Actually ended up going back to my unit about 6 months later. I was, what they would consider fully operational. I was back PTing. I was able to run 3 miles in about 18, 19 minutes, back to doing pull-ups, back to doing my sit-ups again.
How much time had passed since then?
About 6 months.
No. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then 9/11 happened. I was right at the end of getting out, and it was time for me to re-enlist. And I went to the dive locker and asked Gunny, Gunny, hey, to re-enlist. I want to go with you guys over. They were going to hit Hawaii and then head over. And he wouldn't let me resign. He said, you've faced death many times before. You've lived. There's a reason why you should be here. You need to get out. He goes, you need to go head over there and check out that box in the corner. So I was like, all right, whatever, Gunny, fine. I walk over to the box. I look over and it says Johnson dead on it. And they had packed up all of my stuff because back to command, they had told them I had died. I wasn't going to live. They didn't think I was going to make it. So it's a pretty interesting thing in your life when you take to go over and you open up a box that has your last name on it, which is also your first name in the military. And then it says, you're dead. Puts things into perspective a little bit. So that's pretty much the claim to fame story of me dying and coming back. And then I got out. I didn't have a transition problem, like I hear a lot nowadays. I just went to work. It's kind of how it works. Got bills to pay, family to take care of. So you go get a job.
Right.
Got a job. Fortunately landed it. I was selling gym memberships. And then I had an opportunity between selling Boston Market chicken as a manager and getting into the mortgage business. And at the time it was just, I don't know, opportunity meets luck meets a whole other bunch of things. Early 2000s. I decided to pick the mortgage industry over Boston Market chicken, and not for any reason other than the fact that, somebody laid a $66,000 check in a month in front of me, which is a great story. I was, negative $180 in my account. I didn't have any money. I was struggling, pretty good entrepreneurial story. And, 45 days later, I beat the top sales guy, made $68,000 and forever changed my life in the business. So,
during that time, I've been in real estate agent since '98, and we were pretty much starting to print money right about the time you got into it.
Yeah, it was the crazy. I mean, I travel all around the country, and I've coached some major corporations and companies, and sometimes I feel like I cheat them a little bit because, they'll say, how did you become a 7-figure earner at 23, 24 years old? And it's like, you kind of give the candid answer, or the canned answer of just, oh, it's hard work, and it's like, man, I don't know. That was just a really great time combined with hard work.
Right.
I'm a Marine. I just kept going, doing the work, put in, and my father taught me that way. I don't want to give it all to the Marine Corps, but my father taught me that way as well. Like, just put the work, outwork the next guy. They would leave. I just keep working, smiling and dialing and putting in the effort. I mean, man, when somebody lays that kind of money down in front of you, you've never seen that change your whole life. You just do what you got to do, So, yeah.
So you move out of, so you're working in mortgage, and what happens next? To get into this superstar kind of scenario that you're in right now, helping people and being a go-giver. So how did that work?
That was as they say, it's 15 years to an overnight success. So, right. It really was kind of that, as a gist of it, the 2008 recession happened. I ended up homeless for about 2 years. In Charlotte, North Carolina, and then went through some experiences with that. And then I, learned about diversification as an entrepreneur. At the time, I think I was just a really high paid salesperson. I didn't understand entrepreneurship. So for myself, I started to learn to diversify my businesses and kind of understand branding. To be honest with you, as a speaker, I didn't think I had enough credibility. I was always following people like Zig Ziglar and Les Brown, and I've never been a huge Tony Robbins fan, even though we share the same, birthdays and a lot of similarities.
Right.
It was just, I just never really kind of got sold into. I really liked Zig Ziglar and Les Brown a lot. I like their delivery. I like that it's very wholesome. I like that if I wanted to bring my kids to it, they could learn a lot from it. There wasn't a lot of F-bombs going around with it. So
right.
I really enjoyed that platform. So when I listened to their story, I didn't think I really had the credibility that justified being a speaker. And
so you really didn't feel you had the identity, because I'm hearing, as we had parallel stories, is that I, was printing money as well. In 2008, I was living in a house that I had listed as a short sale with my dog because the people had moved out and I had lived there. And I just kind of came back, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't raised with the identity of money and what it can actually do for you.
I was actually, I think, yeah. So I think a good way that I've learned to put that in is that when you're poor, you justify not having money by working really hard. Like I find that,
great explanation.
I find that people that when I have a discussion with them about money, especially in America, when someone thinks they've got a lot of money, they think they either stole it or they've taken it from people. It has a really bad connotation whereas like when you're poor, it's like, oh, I work really hard. I work hard for my money. Right. And I didn't learn until later on in life that was kind of an ignorant statement, because it's not about that. It's about being able to help and do more. So yeah, it was an identity thing. I thought that I had to work a whole bunch and do all of these things and have this big reason to justify being a great speaker.
Excellent. So you're doing this, the cross country run. I just want to clarify, you actually ran across the country?
Yeah. So I just finished my going on 5th year, I think, starting to blend together now, but I literally run every day, 22 miles a day for 65 days straight. And this last time I did it the last 2 years I've done it carrying a 100-pound pack.
Rucksack or like a, wow. Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you something. You and I are cut from the same sheath with being veterans and whatnot. We're always giving back to our veteran community. I'm part of the Veterans Professional Network here in Florida, and we help the homeless. And when they transition out, help get them jobs and also suicide prevention as well. So I love that that's what you do about it. And you and I vibe on the same length. But what did your family think about you kind of stepping out, doing this running thing? Were they supportive? Or are they like, man, get a job? Or like, what are they thinking?
Well, no, I mean, how you live your life is how it should be at home too, right? I mean, it shouldn't be two separate things. I mean, my family understands that, our job as a family is if we're in a position of strength first, not weakness, but if we're in a position of strength to give back, it's our responsibility to do that. Beautiful. I don't think it's necessarily a pick one or the other. I mean, a family does things together, i.e. the word family. So, our position is that we all play a big role in it. I mean, my daughter and I, she's 5 years old and she's already got her name on what's going to be, a best-selling book. We wrote a book together because it's important that, a byproduct of the people that run into these situations all starts back because of the family. Sure. It really goes back to, the senior level executives that want to pay a bunch of money for coaching, realizing that they need to pay more money about, learning how to be at home with their kids. So it's really, it's the reality of it all. So they were extremely supportive. Like anything else, I mean, I think family misses you when you're along the road, but they go along. My daughter runs some of the runs with me, we all kind of do everything together. It's not necessarily like there's only a few times where, and plus they see me on TV all the time too, so they're always like, oh, there's daddy, and oh, that's cool. And they're doing radio spots. And so I don't want to say, well, I was really away from them very much. We kind of all together.
You're always in connect, and that's awesome. Sure. So you have this company, you run 3 successful businesses, and you're writing books. So obviously you have some solid leadership skills. So all the people out there that are listening, and my varsity squad out there in Time to Shine, what makes a good leader, T. Shane?
I think that's kind of a loaded question. I think it depends on the segment of where you're at and kind of personality, right? I think our generation is a very, do as I say, do, don't, do as I do, don't do as I say, do sort of
Right.
thing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Instant willingness and obedience to all orders, I think, is probably a better platform to put it on. I mean, we trust in our leaders, so we don't need to ask questions. I mean, that's the kind of the point of having a leader, is to give you that flexibility to say, man, I don't need to ask questions because I know this person's going to get it done. Whereas in this last hike, when I worked with a lot of active duty military, they want to ask 100 questions from their leaders. And then their leaders want to be a lot more passive. So I think it goes down to like, think about like when you do a normal, I can see it right in my head. I'm trying to think of organizational chart.
Sure.
And you look at organizational chart and you see like one where the top is the CEO, you got 2 VPs, you've got general managers, you got your employees. That's
right.
One perspective, right? Is the leader at the top is a strategic thinker and to help lead the ship. And then they have the other side where you take the organizational chart and you flip it upside down, right? And you flip it upside down and the leaders on the bottom, and they're looking up at their employees versus down at their employees, leading from that direction.
Got it.
And so I think there's different types of leaders for different techniques and people. I don't think there's one leader that fits all. I think for me, what I enjoy is I don't like swivel chair leaders. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. No good decisions made from a swivel chair. So if I'm going to ask you to do something, like as a speaker, I was just having a conversation with my publicist yesterday. She says, "Oh, we've got this big giant festival, up in New York that's a fitness thing, and they want you to come up there and be their motivational speaker." And I said, "Great." I said, "Why don't I break the world record that I'm going to do this year up there?" And she's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "That's 12 hours of push-ups, for 19,000 push-ups. Why would you do that?" And I said, "If I'm going to stand on a stage and tell people about what I do, wouldn't it be better if I'm doing it versus talking about what I did 10 years ago?"
12,000 push-ups?
19,000 push-ups.
19,000
for
push-ups.
12 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
And just like I did with the last hike I did, I set a world record for the fastest 1 mile carrying a 100-pound pack in front of 20,000 fans in the middle of a football game. And I spoke to the team prior to and did it. I mean, I just think it's important that if we're going to say something, that we're actively doing it so
Lead
that
by
people
example.
can be inspired. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So seems like you had some serious downs at one time and you got a lot of ups. But what, if you can recall, I'm sure there's a couple of them, but recall, what was your worst entrepreneurial moment?
Yeah, there's a lot of those. That's probably a lot more downs than ups.
Right.
I think maybe one that people can relate to the most is your family is an interesting thing. Your friends and family are very interesting. When you're this type of person that has this just undying desire and fire in your belly, and only you know it. It's the hardest thing to communicate, when you're in the business of communication. And everyone questions everything that you're doing, every ability. They all want you to be safe. They all try to sell you on those things. And when I really went out to be a speaker about 2 years ago, because I was in a full blown mortgage business, and people are like, "Oh, there's great money to be made in that. Why are you doing it? And you're making this. You're going to run across America. You're going to do all this stuff, and you're going to get back. And why would you leave this cushy thing?" And it was interesting because everybody questioned every step of that, and I never felt more alone in my life. There's been a lot of times, but when you're an entrepreneur and when you're a risk taker, when you're willing to go above and beyond, people are so scared of it that they take that away from you. And it's a very lonely feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Felix Dennis, the founder of Maxim Magazine, I always loved his approach. He wrote a book called, I think it's Get Rich. And I loved that book because he's British and he's just to the point, no fluff to it. And he was like, being successful is the most lonely position in the world because no one understands you. No one understands what you're trying to go through. And that sucks because, and the great thing about it is when you become successful, you want to give to everybody,
like, go-giver.
You're going to give it to people,
Yeah.
You're going to help them out, and it makes you question humanity quite a bit because
Right.
you're doing it honestly to fulfill a void, to give and to deliver more people. So when I decided I wanted to be a speaker, that was probably a pretty lonely time.
So Tishan, what was that aha moment then, man, when you're a mortgage broker and then that aha moment that's like, I'm going to be a speaker, I'm going to fire people up, I'm going to motivate them, get them leveling up their life, as we say here in Time to Shine?
It was my second hike across America. I was in Las Vegas at a homeless shelter, and I was giving a speech to corporate executives with Caesars Entertainment, in addition to some homeless veterans that were battling a drug addiction. And it was kind of a dynamic thing as a speaker because you have to switch audiences. You can't say the same thing to one versus the other. So
Right.
I was kind of switching back and forth in my conversation. And I took a second to look at the veterans that were there, and I said, thank you. I said, you're my version of Rambo. Had you not served or taken the time to serve and inspired and laid that path of continuing the tradition, especially as the Marine Corps, maybe I wouldn't have seen that as a vision. You're truly a hero. And I don't mean a hero in a loosely turn just to try to sell you a product like everybody does nowadays. Right. I mean it in the sense of as someone who had lost that. I walked over to the truck after I was done. This Marine comes up to me and he had sunglasses on, and he pulls his sunglasses on. His eyes was red and he was crying. And he says, this morning when I got up, I put a gun in my mouth and I didn't want to live today. Right. And he says, I lost my business. It was a very successful business. And my wife left me. My kids disowned me. And he looked right in the face and he goes, and then this morning they took my dog. And it doesn't seem like much to maybe when you hear this podcast, but what he was saying is there is the only thing, and that goes back to what you asked me a second ago, the only thing that gave him 100% unconditional love, that trusted him more than anything in the world, and no matter how much he failed, looked at him like he's everything, and they took that from him. And once you've taken that from somebody,
took their soul.
Why? And he looked right at me and he goes, but today, after hearing you, he goes, I don't need that anymore, and I can make it happen. Man, and I quit. I literally quit everything, like probably the next day, I think it was. And I was like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Like there's something more here.
That's a huge aha moment, brother.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So you put all this stuff together that you've did, from serving our country to becoming a successful mortgage broker, to writing books, to keeping our veterans from taking their lives, raising money. What's the one thing that you know for sure out of all this?
That I'm going to be a great father for my daughter. I mean, all this has to do with leaving a legacy to my daughter. I mean, I was coaching a bunch of real estate agents or brokers yesterday, and they were like, you do all this for the money and blah, blah, blah. And they were asking me, because they're trying to be motivated. They're young, they're into the business. And I said, honestly, I do this to make money for the reasons why I don't want people on the streets. If I can help you become a 6 or 7 figure earner, you're not going to be a failed entrepreneur that's going to be on the streets, or your children won't be a byproduct of lack thereof income. And what I've seen on the streets really comes down to, and again, this is a segment thing. This isn't a broad spectrum. It's a segment thing for me, is that I noticed that the females, they just didn't have the male support around. Fathers were just gone. So all of this stuff I'm doing, people are like, wow, it's so awesome. I'm like, because I have a 5-year-old daughter that has to one day look for somebody that she can feel inspired by, when she starts dating at 65 years old, and she gets the opportunity to be a part of that. I need her to have somebody that she can at least mirror that with. And I mean, all this is from my daughter. I mean,
everything goes back, giving back. That's awesome. Priorities are on point. So what would the T. Shane Johnson tell the 18-year-old T. Shane Johnson?
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. He hasn't really experienced anything. What would you lay any foundation for him, or just live life and just play the game as it goes along?
We are humans, we think we're so smart. We think we have control over everything. We think that we can control. That's not how life works. It doesn't work that way. I think life comes at you, and it's dependent on how you react to it. So if I told myself anything different, I wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation with you today, having breakfast with my daughter this morning. And Beautiful. I would change that for the world. I mean, look, man, you're asking a person who died 3 times and met God.
Right.
I know what's awesome. There,
what's there. Yeah. So you could share pretty much with any age of the T. Shane Johnson, of course. Let me ask you something. Without your cell phone, what are the 3 things you can't live without?
With my daughter, that'd be one. I think if I lost her, that'd be over.
Done, right?
Yeah. Number 2, what could I live without? And probably the gym. I love the gym. It's kind of getting my body right. I really enjoy that. And honestly, my audience would be third. The people that I connect with on a daily basis, the stories, I mean, it's so funny as a speaker, you feel like, people think, oh, you're giving me so much. And as a speaker, you're really just speaking what you feel, and they're just filling that void for
I
you.
find the
So,
same thing, brother,
I
when
mean,
I'm
it's
up
like,
there.
yeah, it's like people just change your life and listening to how they're inspired. So just the fact that there's still hope. I love that, man.
I love that, man. And then kind of one of our last questions before we get in the level up lightning round. And I think I already know the answer with you, but what's your definition of a life well lived?
Yeah, again, another loaded question. I think that's a great question. For me, is a better way to say it. For me, it's to know that I can get up every day and be the best dad I can be.
Love it.
I mean,
You're a total
that's
go-giver, man. You're
yeah.
always giving.
My daughter is, man, she is. I think for parents, when you have a child, it is the best versions of you. She just got selected for gymnastics team, and she's the youngest person that they requested team. They didn't even have her try out, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be the worst father in the world. Like, I just know I was sitting there like, oh, okay, we got to get back. You're going to be training. We're going to kick butt, and she's like, yeah, Daddy, we're winners. And I'm like, that's right. We are winners. We were just listening to music, having a good time about it, and just having fun. And I just love her confidence. I was a complete introvert as a kid, and watching her, she's such an extrovert. And
Right.
it's just an extreme fulfillment. So I think it really comes down to just being the best daggum father I can be, and hoping that she leaves a legacy in life, and that, it just, I don't know. It's just everything's.
I'm sure she has a ton of lessons she teaches you along the way as well.
Children are the best example of motivational speakers all day long. They wake up every day happy for just the smallest things. I mean, it's just great. Like when she wants to do breakfast, like, Daddy, I want to help. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's help. Let's do it.
Right.
Always be open to that. Don't be too busy. I tell people all the time, if you're paying attention to your phone more than you're paying attention to your child, someone else is going to give that attention. It's going to be the wrong person. So take the time.
That's awesome. I'm going to actually note that. Yeah, other people. All right, man. Okay, level up lightning round. Again, loaded questions. We could talk for 20 minutes on each one of these, but 5 to 7 seconds. Just give it to me straight, all right?
Okay.
No matter how stupid they are.
Sure.
All right. What was holding you back from becoming an entrepreneur?
Fear of failure.
Got it. What is the best level up advice you've ever received?
Work 5 years like nobody wants to, live the rest of your life like nobody can.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Maybe more character. I just don't quit.
Love it. That's awesome. Other than tshaneinspires.com, give me another, in my squad, another internet resource where they should visit.
www.tshaneinspires.com. You mentioned that one. Carolina Mortgage Firm. That's another company that I own. And then, of course, Amazon. They can check out all of my books there as well.
Of course, Time to Shine today as well. I'm kidding.
No, you're not. It's good. And Time to Shine, everyone. Make sure you visit there.
That's it. All right. Obviously, you're a reader. You're a leader. Recommend a book to share and why, real quick.
Well, I think Think and Grow Rich is a classic. I mean, you just can't go wrong
here.
with that book. Yeah, I mean, it's a great, easy read. It's and it just talks about the main thing, about burning desire and going through. It holds true for so many years. And I think if anybody, I have a 14-year-old stepdaughter. And one of the things that we do is I pay her allowance to read books, not to do chores. So she reads motivational books, and she has to give me a chapter outline every time when we're done, and then speak about it in front of me, stand up. Yeah. So I give her $20. She'll do a book. She finishes, she writes a story, and then she stands up and speaks. So that way she can articulate the message. And Think and Grow Rich is by far her favorite.
Oh, man, she's going to be on the dais with us very soon. I can see that right now.
Yeah, she'd love that.
All right, last question. Best decade of music, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Classic rock, 70s.
There you go, my man. We definitely got to hook up when we meet. All right, man. So tell us how we can find you, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget that you want to stand out above all you said.
Absolutely. So on any social media handle whatsoever, at T. Shane Johnson, you type that in, you'll find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You'll be able to find me anywhere utilizing that handle. As far as last nugget, look, if you're listening to this, there is at least one person that is listening to this that's going through something. There's got something hard in your life, some type of struggle, anything. And the thing I want you to remember is just always, no matter what, best lesson I ever learned in my life when it comes to the Marine Corps is just keep your feet moving. Never, ever, ever stop, because everybody wants you to. Everybody's looking forward to it. Everybody wants you to quit to make them feel justified that it's okay for them to be a loser. Don't give in to it. Keep pushing. Don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to the demons. And that applies to everything from business to life to personal to any mental things that you're having going on, relationships. You bear down, you grit, you take another foot and you put it in front of the other, and you just keep on going and live your dreams. Because as someone who has shared the same room as the God Almighty on the deathbed, I will tell you that don't worry. He's got you. Everything is okay. So just keep another foot in front of the other and keep on moving.
All right, squad, you heard that. If you feel like you failed, make sure you fail forward. Keep moving forward at all times. And it's like we always say here at Time to Shine Today, to level up, you need to surround yourself with top-notch people who are always leveling up their health, leveling up their wealth. And I am so privy and grateful, T-Shane, that you're part of our squad now. And thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you,
all
sir.
Right. Well, virtual fist pump. Boom.
Boom.
All right, brother. All right. Wow. My mind is blown by that interview that I just had with T-Shane Johnson. Things that really stood out to me and kind of knowledge nuggets that he really dropped, that he gives his family so much credit. Not just his young daughter, but also his father had a say in a lot of how he was molded. And that's awesome that he was able to pick up steps from people that he learned to trust and maybe even loved along the way. I mean, this guy ran 6,000 miles across the country. How selfless is that? I mean, raising money for veteran suicide and really wanting to touch people's lives. His aha moment about the veteran crying, and really just him just saying, I'm dropping everything and moving forward with this. That's that's just crazy. That's awesome. I picked up so many knowledge nuggets from T-Shane, and he motivates me, and I know that he motivated you. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Go to our Facebook page, Time to Shine Today, and leave us a little comment on what you thought about T-Shane's interview that he just did. How about what he does with his stepdaughter, about how he has her read to make money, read and give a report. I mean, how inventive is that? That's just awesome. I give him so much credit for everything he does, and I was privy that he came on and shared his story with you, my squad. I mean, you hear me every day, but this guy is just a whole other level, and I'm willing to say that and admit it. So just the guy believes in a persistence that doesn't recognize failure, and when he fails forward, and he gets back up, bites down the mouthpiece, and moves forward. So again, hope you enjoyed this as half as much as I did, and let's stay humble, stay hungry, level up our health, level up our wealth, because it's your time to shine. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today. If you're a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on our podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson. Until next time, level up. It's your time to shine.